Kia ora tātou, thank you. Look, I wanted to just take my submission as read, highlight the main points, of course, that I opposed the bill, recommend its withdrawal, and acknowledge that you've heard all the legal reasons why and against the bill, so let's not recap, but I have touched on them. I just wanted to expand a little on my submission and reflect on my personal journey with Te Tiriti and the treaty as what I think is perhaps fairly typical of somebody who grew up in New Zealand. I'm late 40s, grew up in the rural Waikato, and there's just quite a gulf between the reality of what we know about our constitutional arrangements and the perception of what we think we know about our constitutional arrangements, which is really at the heart of some of the frustrations and challenges that we're experiencing in this debate. We don't have a strong culture of understanding our constitutional arrangements, and so we're not in this educated position to actually be having a constructive conversation in the way that we are, and hence a referendum, I think, is a terrible way of doing it. I wanted to just acknowledge, I think it was Andrew Judd who was submitting the other day, and sort of just resonate with his personal journey. And he talks about being a recovering racist. So in terms of the attitudes that one grows up with in the nation, in the culture, through no ill intent, just recognizing that there are embedded biases that are often inherent in the way that we learn about things, or the attitudes that we grow up with around things like the treaty. I wanted to acknowledge that there's this contradiction in the bill around equal rights, and of course of seeking to have equal rights but ignoring the equal rights that iwi entered the treaty with. I think that's really at the core of part of the contradiction of this. But really, on a positive note, just really wanted to stress that I think we absolutely do need a conversation about our constitutional arrangements in New Zealand, and I absolutely support us having that in a constructive and coordinated and respectful way as a nation. And I think there's a huge amount of effort that needs to be taken, and leadership required, I guess, from Parliament as well as civic society, to be able to take some of those steps and make some of those progress. Particularly acknowledge a lot of the thinking that's been done by people like Moana Jackson and Martiki Mai, and recognising the very, the kind of visceral and personal components of what those journeys would be. It scares the heck out of me as well as excites me terribly, which I think are two emotions that we can hold together whilst moving forward on a conversation like that. So I know I only have a few minutes, sort of just recapped on what I talked about. The gist of it is in my submission, as you would have seen, and perhaps I'll just leave a minute or so for questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Justin. Members, any questions for Justin on that submission? No, I don't see any questions coming through, Justin, so we've got about a minute remaining. I'm happy to hand back over to you if you want to provide any further context, or we can wrap up the session there.
Well, the only thing I would say is one of the things coming out of, if the committee or whatever this process has any power to do, is potentially reinvigorating some of the educational material that does exist around Te Tiriti, and getting that out amongst people and communities, and whether it needs to be better incorporated into citizenship processes and migration processes as well, in terms of some of that educational material. So there are good materials that I note in my submission, and just also, I guess, maybe just offer the potential for leadership in Parliament to provide more education in that space to help it make a more constructive conversation in the future. Perhaps I'll leave it there.
Thanks, and thank you, Justin. It's a very nice way to wrap up. Look, on behalf of the committee, I just want to acknowledge your submission today, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having time to listen to me. Appreciate it.
We've got...
Right. Okay. So, yeah, he brings up interesting points about the referendum, and I know we're going to be covering. I think we're going to be covering the referendum bill tonight later on, but it does bring up. Yeah, it does bring up an interesting point that is a referendum the best way to sort this out? Because when you're dealing with referendums, you are dealing with the fact that the public may not be informed enough to make a meaningful decision. That's something that actually reflects their values. They may not have enough information to do it. So education is really important if you're going to be doing referendums on big issues like this. And what's been really disappointing throughout this entire process is lack of knowledge, coming from MPs. Now, credit where credit's due. Members of the public who are submitting are doing their homework. A lot of the submissions I've seen is like people who actually have read through it. I've been really impressed by the amount of people who are Pākehā who are doing their homework. There's Tauiwi as well, so non-Pākehā who are foreigners, who are doing their homework and taking the time to learn, and they just, they focus on like a local tipuna or a local ancestor who has had interactions with the crowd. They might pick like a certain ancestor that's relevant to the area they live in, and they read up on that person, and that gives me a lot of hope, because it's like, cool, you're learning, awesome. You're also reading through the reports, fantastic. It is good to see that, but yeah, it does have me worried that MPs don't have kind of like enough base knowledge about the differences between the Te Reo Māori version of the text and the English version of the text. So it's like, oh, we'll just mash them together and we'll get something. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. It's a whole bunch of legal stuff you got to consider, and a whole bunch of like treaty settlements as well that you've got to consider. And it's, you know, you can't just go from A to Z without looking at the history and going through the nuance of all of these cases.
Right. You said A to Z, and it, like, completely unrelated, but it just reminded me that someone has changed the alphabet song.
Really?
And people are so mad about it. Like, yeah, because apparently LMNOP is too fast for children to understand. Yeah.
Okay, skill issue.
Yeah.
Kids got to learn.
But yeah, you can't just remove and change entire sections of the alphabet and still have it make sense. Like
LMNOP. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Sam says that's a band.
LMNOP is a band. They're a fantastic Kiwi band.
And LMP is a delicious drink. Okay, so do we have any other thoughts on the submission?
Well, I was in the wharepaku actually, so I
thought you were fighting bees in the background.
What's that?
I thought you were still fighting with bees in the background.
No, the bee is long gone. He must have
The bee is
flown out
gone.
the window.
Okay, you won that war.
I won the bee war.
You won the bee war.
No war with the bees. No war with the bees. We love
Did you send the bees to Ukraine? They can throw more beehives. Have you seen that video of the beehives?
Yes.
Okay, this is not related to the submission anymore. We're talking about fucking bees. Okay, all right, let's go into the submission.
Let's move on, shall we?
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.